Hey, Bayek, it's me, and in today's video, yes, we've got to the final Star Trek Next Generation film. It is Star Trek Nemesis from 2002. This is an interesting film because it promised so much, and yet you feel that it's a sad way it was to end the Next Generation with this film. Fortunately, just now in this year of 2023, we have Picard, which is in many ways trying to sort of end the Next Generation in a really interesting and good way. But this, I think maybe they would have carried on maybe if the box office returns would have been better. And maybe the cast as well were more behind another film. But if you're from a financial viewpoint, then Perlman would just, this is it. This is the end, I'm afraid. So, well, that's it. If you look now at the film, it's on Rotten Tomatoes 38%, and I think that's probably quite what you would expect, really. It was generally not really well received. It did have some reviews that were okay on it, but there's a kind of, I don't know, inevitability about it all, which is rather sad, the response to this film. So 117 minutes long. It's quite, you could say it's quite long as well. And does it justify that? Why is this film perhaps not as good as it should be? I'm not saying, again, it sounds like I'm doing a really negative review, but there will be some positive things in here. Because, it's the Next Generation, and it's enjoyable. There's a lot of great scenes as well in it, the film. Which, if you're a Star Trek fan, you just simply love. But there are problems, and you kind of get the feeling that it's a bit like Generations were. Things are not quite right as how they should be. And unfortunately, it was the last film, here we are. Now, I wonder why these problems have occurred with the film. It's directed by Stewart, who I notice is well respected as a great editor. He's got a tremendous amount of editing experience, right up, right through to some really great films. But he's only got 3 directors' films. And one of them is U.S. Marshals, which is really a good film, which is a sequel, the Harrison Ford Fugitive film. And that's really good. And it's got Tommy Lee Jones is the main star of this U.S. Marshals. And that it is quite a good film. But he's really known for his action films, and I think, and I've sort of read some of the interviews, he's not really a Star Trek person. Not really did he know much about Star Trek in terms of, that heart and feel for the series. So again, you're starting to think, interesting. And the fact that he's an action film director. You see, the heart of all good Star Trek is always recognizing that family feel, the unity that you get, and the characters in that. The characters are just as important as any action sequences. It's, it's not Star Wars where everything's all action wanting to be, and characterization is not a great thing. This is Star Trek, where characters are important, characterization is important with the action as well, but maybe that's something the director didn't quite get. Screenplay is by John Logan, who, again, I looked, he's got some really good writing things, but then I noticed he did Skyfall and Spectre. Spectre, yes. He did that. Maybe it was it carried on with this film, even though this film is 2002, so it's quite a long way back, very much so. So it just meant when I saw that, I thought, oh yes, but because he has a really good career. And that was perhaps just one of those things. But in this film, I think the cast as well have acknowledged some of these things. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Let's go through the cast. It's Patrick Stewart again as Picard, Riker, Jonathan Frakes, Data, Brent Spina, Geordi, Levi Burton, Worf, Michael Dorn, Dr. Crusher, Gates McFadden, Troy, Marina Sirtis, and then the star actor who wasn't known, who was very much more unknown then, who plays the villain, the big villain, Shinzon, is Tom Hardy. Yes, Tom Hardy. This is where he starts, and what a career he's still having. He's been in some great stuff, hasn't he? You go back to Inception, Mad Max Road Fury, Dark Knight Rises, Venom. I could go on, and plus then there's all the TV things he's involved in. This guy is a British actor who's really doing it, really knocking it. But here, I have to admit, his performance is a real plus for the film. And when you read his interview about how he prepared for the film, and everything about this performance, he was really happy to work with Patrick Stewart as well. And they wanted to get that resemblance of some kind as well, and it's really interesting. And so that is a real bright, enjoyable part of this film, is his performance and the villain. That's good. It's certainly a stronger villain, I think, than, like, say, I'm going back to comparing with Generations. Definitely. Dr. Sorum was not in the same, you didn't get that same menace. This character has got that, and he's really good in the part. He adds a more emotional depth, I think, to the part. It's just a pity that it's kind of wasted in some areas, unfortunately, in this film. But we'll talk about that again. Then the other, I think, interesting character is the Reman Viceroy, who's played by Ron Perlman. You can't recognise him. Well, you can. He's good. He's always under more prosaics and what have you. But I love Ron Perlman. What a great actor he is. He's just I've got so much respect for him as an actor. He's appeared in so many great things. I think he's great. And he's in this film again. Again, just showing you, we've got some real good quality actors here. And I had to laugh at this. Well, not laugh. I shouldn't laugh. The one of the characters, the Praetor Hiram, is played by Alan Dale. And Alan Dale pops up in everything. And I always look back, he was in Neighbours. Yes, there's a Kylie connection even here we can dig out. Alan Dale was in Neighbours. He played Jim. And then he went over to America and appeared in loads of feature films, stacks of TV series. There's one that I know him is in Lost he was in. And just everything you could name it. And Alan Dale popped up, and he's popped up here. He's in Star Trek. It's wonderful. The other interesting thing is it's only a very, very short appearance, but we see Kate Mulgrew doing Admiral Janeway, and you wonder about that, but there is hope about Janeway character. I think in the modern terms we may get more Janeway. We've had some glimpses in the animated series. And now I'm going off again. I'm sorry for going off, but anyway, just to mention that. Also, it's interesting about Wesley Crusher. He's in it in a non-speaking role. You could just see him. There were more of him apparently in deleted scenes, and that's Will Wheaton. I don't understand why really that happened. It would have been nice to have seen a lot more of him, but it didn't happen. So that's some of the cast. Let me say. Also, the music is Jerry Goldsmith again, and that is excellent. See, I am putting positive things in. The music's fantastic, and it's there. It's all next gen stuff, and just wonderful. I love the music. So, what is the premise of the story? It's basically the crew of the Enterprise. They're really being forced to deal with a threat to the Federation. It becomes clear to the whole Federation from a clone of Picard. Yes, now this again is an interesting dynamic straight away, called Shinzon, and he's the character that Tom Hardy plays. But he is, through a coup, effectively taken over control of the Romulan Empire, and that, of course, has serious consequences. This is the premise of the film, and how Picard and the crew are going to stop him, and that's interesting. Now the film, I think, is wonderful when we see this wedding scene between. This is right near the beginning. We see that wedding scene between Riker and Troy, and that gives you that sort of family feel, and you're thinking, oh yeah, the film is going to go in this kind of direction. It's a really nice. You see that kind of as a part of the farewell to the series, and it's something that I think fans had always wanted, and we got this wonderful wedding scene, and that's great. So you get that, and then things start to change, I think, in our perspective as the film goes on. You still feel that the next gen crew are not getting the time. We've got, obviously, Brent Spina with Data getting his storyline with the discovery of B4. But you still feel the other members, even Riker doesn't feel quite as, I don't think, as much in it as he was. He wasn't directing this time, of course. He's involved in other projects as well outside that. But I think if he'd have been directing it, the tone of the film would have been very different and better, I think, definitely. Instead of getting all these set pieces, we'd have got the characterization more. He's talked about it as well in an interview, and that's what we would get. You see, I think the problem with the film is that as it progresses, you don't feel as engaged into the characters. The scenes with Picard and Shinzon are really good. I think at times the acting is excellent, and that is a real positive and enjoyable part of the film. Seeing that acting, and it just shows you Tom Hardy is really, really good. This early part of his career is just fantastic to see, and I mean, it is worth watching for that in many ways, and that is a very positive plus side of this film. I like that a lot because Patrick Stewart again gives a towering performance. He's the one constant throughout all these films, even going back to me with the Generation film. He's always on top. He's brilliant. He's just such a great actor. He elevates everything he does. Unfortunately, it doesn't save the whole film. That's the problem. And also, I've read in interviews, there's the cast didn't all get on that well with the director. That is what has been made quite clear. I think it's because he didn't understand the characters. That's it. That's an important part. He didn't really understand the characters. There are some really sort of weird, kind of interesting scene, particularly I can think of, and that is effectively it's a mind rape scene. It's quite disturbing with Troy, and that adds something different, but it's very disturbing for a Star Trek film to see. But as I say, a lot of it is just set pieces set up, and they then join together with the story. And it does seem, perhaps as well, a little bit too long, almost. I can't fault, I mean, the special effects and the look, absolutely fantastic. And that is enjoyable, seeing all these battle scenes and what have you. They're really good. They're really spot on. So what do I actually think then about overall? My opinion is that it's sad because it feels a bit tired. Yeah, I know. Why? This is only the fourth film, and we've only had two that have really captured more of what the Next Generation is about. And this, for the farewell, it's rather sad that it doesn't do that. It's really sad. It's enjoyable, and I loved watching it again. In fact, I hadn't seen it for a long time, and I think I did appreciate it more. I appreciate it more than I did when I initially watched it. But it's still, you still have that feeling that it was a merely missed opportunity at the time, and that is sad. He almost feels a bit flat, doesn't it? And he shouldn't do that, But there are good acting performances, and we've got to take what we can, and I'm being positive here. It's something I can watch again. It's not something I would say, oh, I'm not going to watch again. And I'm really glad it's in my collection. Even Generations, I'm really glad Generations is in my collection, because, when you see that a performance that Patrick Stewart does as Picard, then how can you not want to watch that again? And I always feel that with him. The one of all these films, as I said, the constant thing that is Patrick Stewart performance as Picard, it's always really good, and it's enjoyable to watch, and that's what I take from the positives of these films. It's just that this just feels that it's not as good as it should have been as a farewell, but it's here, and we've got it, and we can still enjoy it, but we have to bear that in mind. And that's why ultimately I think it bombed in the box office, and why it's not looked at so favourably nowadays. But I can see the fact that we've got First Contact and Insurrection, which together give you more of a feeling about what the Next Generation is. I'm repeating myself, aren't I? But there we are. It's well worth. This is well worth watching and still enjoyable. So I don't want to put anybody off because I think we should look at that. And I say the acting is great in this from the lead characters, definitely. It's just we want more next gen people involved, you know. I mean, Dr. Crusher, we want more Dr. Crusher. We want more Troy. Well, we want these characters more. Yes. And just the general feeling and the relationships. That's what we love, you know, as well as what's going on. Anyway, quickly look at the 4K as usual. Here we are. Slipcover. For all you slipcover fanatics. I love this cover. Look at the green. Look at this. Fantastic cover. And it's just a great cover, isn't it? Data and Picard there. There on the back, we've got all the usual about the extras and all that. So I'll just show you inside. We've got this. Again, it's the same. And then we've got that. And then, as usual, the black disc for the 4K and the blue for the Blu-ray. Hey, that's logical, isn't it? Hey, Bayek. So, I'll put this back. And there it is. That's my review of Star Trek Nemesis. And if you're interested in these videos, please subscribe. Then we'll let you know when I produce them. And then, if you really like it, give it a like. It helps with all that algorithms and all that stuff, and gets people interested. And there we are. And it costs note. All costs note, so you can't say better than that. If you've got any comments, please put them in, and you know, let me know what your favourite of these 4 next generation films is, and that will be interesting to see what your opinion is. It may be very different from what I've been going on about. Very different. I don't know. But I enjoy that. Thank you. I really appreciate everything that people, when they comment. So thank you. Okay. So all I've got to say is I'll see thee again.